Please, sit. I implore you. Don't call me a buffoon like those fools at the university. And don't pity me with that sad look those poor sods of nurses give. The events I will recall to you are completely true, no matter how insane, irregular, or incomplete they may seem. It was a gloomy, dark, and chilled Saturday night on the evening of June 10th. I remember the odd sensations my body experienced with almost pinpoint accuracy. The air was extremely crisp in the form of a strangely bitter wind. This was unusual because the day was an extremely warm and miserable one. I remember my nose catching the ghoulish channel rotting stench of something awful. But most of all, I remember the sickly pale glow of the full spectral moon. I don't know why I was in that damned place, nor why Edmund dragged me into his infernal dealings. In the past month something changed in him. His once brilliant eyes filled with conquest and an almost childish curiosity for lore and education have since gone over, and his once ecstatic personality has become bitter and envenomed with hate. I didn't dare question his expeditions for fear he would kill me. I'm sorry, a tottering old woman like me must have been rambling on. You look fairly pale. Would you like a drink? Here, have a glass of gin. My one true vice, I admit. As I was saying, Edmund had dragged me out to some unmentionable and god-awful crypt to dig up who knows what. He had a bizarre look on his face, one of less childish curiosity and more corrupt lust for knowledge, long lost to mortal man. He seemed to believe he could steal knowledge from a rotted corpse. I thought he was a fool, but I didn't tell him that. I did, however, make the mistake of asking what he wanted so damn badly. Immediately his black head shot up and gave me a look of his dull, blood-stained eyes that contained more hatred than any mortal vessel should ever enclose inside itself, and looked down just as quickly, without looking up again, in a low, gravelly, weary voice, just two simple words. Keep digging. I'm sorry, I haven't been up this late in a very long time. Allow me to open up a window. Sorry, continuing on. Edmund and I continued in agonizing silence for some time. It felt as if we had been digging for hours, with no fruitful results for our brutish and ghastly endeavours. But I was excited once we felt our spades strike the solid relief of a coffin beneath the dead and ancient muck. With as much strength as we could muster, we reached our strangely frigid yet oddly sweaty hands down and pulled off the lid, holding whatever wicked and nefarious enigmas lied within. What I saw on that dark and frigid night would make even the most seasoned mortician gasp. It was a corpse, while still ravaged by time, was unnaturally preserved, so that some minute details were still slightly decipherable. The most horribly noticeable thing about it, though, inhuman nature of its structure, almost as if this had been done unnaturally, by itself while the flesh still functioned. The legs and torso were extended and thinned as if put through some sort of torture device. The skin was pallid and dull, as opposing to the rotted amber it should have been. The fingers were cruelly sharpened and the skin shaved off at the ends. And his ancient skull appeared as one of a sleeping man that was the victim of a gruesome case of trepanation, with the dried blood still calloused along the edges. But as I watched, aghast and in horror at this grisly sight, Edmund had found exactly what he was looking for. a small note clutched in the bloodied hands of this fetid corpse, and as he groped at the yellow roll I got a closer look, and realized it was not human skin, but appeared to be of some material as the Alas of an abominable book written by some Arabian prior. He held it high above his head. The moon was full, and he began to shine brightly with an almost malign sentence. And he spoke the words written on that vile note, and while I know not what it means, I remember it was perfectly clarity as it came out of his lips. He spoke the words. As the last guttural word left his tired mouth with an almost echoing tone, lightning struck it and began to rain. Edmund repeated the words on that accursed note, God knows how many times, over and over, in the same damned tone. But then he dropped it, gasping for breath as he looked at me with the curious and soft glance I had known before, but still not full of conquest and wonder, but instead filled with tears and depression. He began to weep, his watery tears streaming down his face faster than the rain. And though his moaning and wailing cries, I began to hear music, one that I had never experienced in my life. It was ethereal, almost dreamlike. And as that music played, Edmund looked at me. Out of his puffy, night-stained face he bawled, God, what have I done? As he spoke this, through his tears, the music struck a sour note. I noticed it had changed from a jubilant and angelic chorus to a deep, slow, gloomy dirge. The wind grew faster, the dirge slower and louder, and Edmund's berserk cries grew louder and more indistinct. Then a flash of thunder struck. My eyes were blinded by the sudden shock, and when they recovered, Edmund, the music, and the rain were all gone. The only thing that remained was the opened coffin and the note. I replaced the lid to the coffin, reburied it in the ground, and left without a word. No instance has asked about Edmund's death, and anyone who I tell the story to believes I should be put in a local asylum. So here I am, living with the memories and telling my story to another young woman who thinks I'm a damned fool. This night has been really taxing on my brain and mental well-being. I would appreciate if you left my house now. Out.